Assalamu alaikum. In this short video, I want to explain how the loop works with every single type of situation that we are facing in our daily lives. Whether it's in the past, or whether it's in the present, or whether it's thinking about something that might happen in the future. We can dissect each and every single part and place it in this sort of loop so that we can figure out what we need to do with the situation and who we want to become as a result. So when we look at the loop, you'll notice we've got 4 parts. Those parts are number 1, thoughts, number 2, emotions, sensations, urges, impulses. So all of that falls in number 2. Number 3 would be behaviors. These could be things that we do externally in our world or things that we do internally in our being, things that happen in our body, in our mind. Okay? And then lastly would be number 4, relief or reward. This is what drives the behavior. This is what we're getting out of it. Every time we do something, we're always benefiting or we're always receiving something as a result of maintaining this sort of thought loop cycle. It may not be helpful, whatever we're doing, in the long run, but for some reason we think that it's helpful for us at least right now. Okay? So sometimes though, we will do this so much so that we hardly feel like it's helping us anymore. Maybe at some point we really noticed that it was serving us, but now we're kind of like, I'm not really getting what I used to get out of this, right? And sometimes that might be kind of the motivation for us to, work on doing something differently. Okay, so let's break this down a little bit more. So when we have thoughts, everybody has thoughts. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not hold us accountable for thoughts until and unless we intentionally harbor them, and then we start making preparations to act on them, and then we act on them. So thoughts that just come and thoughts that just go for whatever reason, no matter the content, those are not worrisome in terms of our deen and accountability. Okay, and the average human gets, anywhere from about 60 to 120,000 thoughts every single day. What we need to know about thoughts also is that we cannot believe everything we think, because we get rational thoughts and we also get irrational thoughts. So we cannot just assume that I'm thinking this way, therefore it must be true. I'm thinking this way, therefore there's probably some truth in there. It might happen that there is no truth in there at all. Okay? So just because we think it doesn't make it true. Now, based on the thoughts that we have and the level of believability of those thoughts, we are going to have emotions, sensations, urges, impulses, which will be in line with those thoughts and that believability. I'll give you an example. If I believe that I'm in danger, my heart will race. I'll have emotions and sensations and urges and impulses. Okay? Maybe my heart will race. Maybe I'll feel nervous. Maybe I'll have anxiety. And maybe I'll get the urge to protect myself, which is the behavior that we end up doing. Okay? So based on how much I believe I'm in danger, then emotions and such will be very strong and will be a strong driver to choose the kind of behavior. It may not be something that we plan to do. Planning is never automatically a result of having thoughts and feelings. In fact, We have to be able to tap into our wise mind, the one that can decide what we really need to do for our well-being in the best way. Okay, but we don't always have that ability, because whenever we are so overwhelmed with emotions and sensations, urges and impulses, it may be so much so that it blocks our ability to contemplate rationally. So this is where we tend to make a lot of mistakes. Sometimes we get them right and sometimes not so much. All right. So the third thing, as we mentioned, is behaviors. Now, based on the thought, the believability, which triggers a congruent, parallel emotion, sensation, thought, or urge, emotion or urge, okay, impulse, then we're going to do something, either in our head or externally, so that we can get relief or we can get reward. A lot of times people are either seeking to reduce pain or to bring pleasure. A lot of times these are huge drivers, okay? All right. So now when we think about the loop, where do you think we could have the most influence in determining how to get out of a negative loop? Well, if we think about it, since we cannot control the initial thoughts that come in our mind, that won't be a good starting point to try to change our behavioral patterns. This won't be a good place to start with if our level of emotions and such are so strong. Because when our nervous system is overwhelmed, blood flow is redirected to other parts of our body, and so our thinking part of our brain is impaired. So we won't be able to really intercept here in the thoughts, and we can't just change how we feel, right? That's like where people say, you're angry, you need to calm down. Well, we understand that, okay? But we don't have that ability to just not become angry all of a sudden. We have to do something in order to be able to. Or you're angry, you need to think in a different way. Like, yes, we get that, but it's almost impossible because our thinking capacities at that point, because of the level of anger, frustration, overwhelm, grief, like all of those things, because it's so much, our thoughts and our brain become impaired. So we cannot make the best decisions when we're making them as a result of emotions, no matter what. Now, people often will tell you, or maybe you've told yourself, like, I can't help it. I feel like this way, and I think I should do it. That's almost always a very bad way of making decisions. Okay, so this often lands us in situations where sometimes we get it right and sometimes not so much. So we cannot really do a whole lot consistently with number 1 and number 2. So what's left is number 3. Now we can't go straight to number 3 because if we're feeling so overwhelmed, we're not going to have space to intentionally interrupt how everything is going in our mind and in our body at that point. So we need to have something along the lines of a 2.5. Okay, right here is a gap between 2 and 3. In this gap, this is what we're going to call gap living. We need to learn how to live in the gap and not be controlled by thoughts and not be controlled by emotions. Okay, so we need to think of number 2.5 as the place of intervention in our own loop. So that's going to need some skills. In the next video, we will talk about what those skills are, and we're going to look at the worksheet and prove the moments. Okay, but for now, let's just try to understand that we must be willing and able to do something right here between 2 and 3. We need to allow our body to feel the emotion, the sensation, the urge, and the impulse. And we can kind of call this urge or impulse surfing, where we kind of ride the wave, right? But we don't get taken under. All right? We have to learn that skill, that surfing skill. And sometimes there are interventions that work for one person that don't for another. So that's why we have a whole toolbox or maybe a tool belt where we can just kind of see, okay, we have these tools available. Which one can we use to help us? Which one do we need in order to help us? And how do we even decide how to help ourselves? So in the next video, we'll exactly talk about that. But for now, let's go ahead to number 3, behaviors, and let's talk about that for just a moment. When we talk about behaviors, those are the external behaviors, things that you could probably, record on a video and see. And then you've got the internal behaviors that won't be readily observable, but you know that you're experiencing them or doing them. Things in your mind might be like canceling thoughts. They might be like validating. They might be like ruminating. They may be like counting. There's so many things that we do inside of our mind. Now, the thing is that as Muslims, our goal is to have congruence, to have matching of our knowledge, like these are our principles and these are our values and this is what we want to do, okay? That alongside of, and then this is what we actually do. What we want to do versus what we actually do. We want to be a good parent. We want to be a good wife. We want to be a good friend because those are our values, right? We want to be kind, but carrying that out is sometimes so challenging because of those thoughts, the storytelling that we're telling ourselves in our mind about a situation, okay? And then the emotions and sensations, urges and impulses that get drawn up and how much they get drawn up. So that's where our work is, okay? So behaviors are influenced, and our goal is to have this in alignment with each other, that this is who we want to be, this is how we do it, and this is who we become as a result of it. So this is ultimately what everybody wants to do who comes for therapy and they say, Aisha, I want to be this person. I'm not this person now, but I'd like to be this person. I'd like my life to look like this. Okay, so we have to somehow interrupt the process so that then we can go in and have a look at the storytelling that we're telling ourselves. So we must be telling ourselves something about a situation, and we maybe need to reframe it. We need to do something to change how it's sitting and the meaning making in our heart. All right. I hope this cycle was helpful, this information was helpful in understanding how to dissect it. I know that I didn't talk too much about relief or reward, but all I need to say about that is that's what we're getting out of it. It helps us in some sort of way. It helps us cope. It helps us feel better. It helps us reduce the pain until it doesn't. Okay, so there's not a whole lot, but I will end this with saying that whatever we feed grows stronger. Whatever we nourish becomes stronger. So if our strength in between 2 and 3 becomes stronger, we will become stronger and we will be more committed and able to behave in a way that we really feel proud of and we really feel like is making progress toward what's important to us in our life. But if we feed the maladaptive or the negative thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, that's what's going to be growing stronger. And so far, probably that's what we've been doing. And it's probably not working that well. So I hope this was helpful. Reach out if you have any questions at all.